Okay, so we'll refer to these Haggadahs for today's class. But before we even open them, let us remember that the major theme of Passover and of telling the story, which is what the word Haggadah means, comes from the word lehagid or vehigadeta, which refers to the biblical commandment that on Passover we have to tell the story, vehigadeta levincha. We have to tell the story of the grand Exodus children. Before we even go there, let's remember that the theme of Passover is to pass over our limits, like we spoke about last time, to come out of our own Mitzrayim. The word Mitzrayim, as we mentioned, means limitations. To come out of our own bad habits, addictions, or whatever may be limiting us in life. And therefore, I would suggest that before we open our Haggadahs at home too, we think of one thing that is pulling us down, or that is in a way paralyzing our or part of our potential. And we make a decision before we open these books to one thing. I mean, that's where you can start, but it could be multiple. If you can chew on a lot, then fine, but a lot of people are going to chew on more than they can. So, you see, she knows more better than you do. But in any case, pick at least one thing, let's put it that way, that you can fix, that you can let go of, one thing that is imprisoning you, so that you can truly become free as you tell the story. Now, after we've done that, we can open up the book of the Haggadah. I'm not going to go over all of the 15 steps that are mentioned right here at the very onset of the Haggadah. In fact, we start by mentioning the 15 steps, which are seen by the Kabbalists, by the way, as 15 steps to freedom. The first one being Kadesh, which means not only to sanctify, from the word Kadosh, but Kadesh also in Hebrew means to separate ourselves, because we have to separate ourselves from any negativities in order to be free. It's a reboot type of night. And that's the first one. The last one is Nirtzah, Hallel Nirtzah, which really means praising God with words of gratitude. And that is because the ultimate step of freedom is a life in which we can see the blessing in everything. Even if you're in a prison type of life, you are still seeing the blessings. That's the ultimate step of freedom. So the Passover Seder takes us from letting go of the past, from separating ourselves from the past, to seeing the blessing in everything. Those are the 15 steps. We're not going to go over everyone. I do want to focus on the part of the Haggadah itself, of the story itself, because as mentioned, it's one of the mitzvahs of Passover. I will say that there are 5 mitzvahs. We'll go into the meaning of the Haggadah soon, but it's important to note, logistically, practically speaking, there are 5 mitzvahs on the night of Passover. Mitzvah number 1, as we just said, is to tell the story. Not just think of the story. You've got to actually tell the story to fulfill the mitzvah. Mitzvah number 2 is to eat matzah. Mitzvah number 3 is to eat maror. Mitzvah number 4 is to praise God, Hallel. And that's done at the very end of the Haggadah. And mitzvah number 5 is to drink wine, to drink the 4 cups of wine. These are the 5 mitzvahs of the night of Passover. But one of the most dominant ones is, again, telling the story. So we'll go to the step in which we actually tell the story, which is the step of Magid. Let's go here, in these ones here, to page 24. Again, I want to pick just a few themes that I think speak, again, to the essence of Passover and to life itself. But it's interesting to note, and maybe one of you here can explain this to me. We are beginning with a paragraph that seems completely out of place. This step of telling the story speaks about us looking at the matzah and saying, hey, lachmania, this is a bread of poverty that our forefathers ate in Egypt. And then we say, kol dichfin yeteh v'yechol. Whoever wants to come and join us, come and eat. Now, if I am celebrating my poverty and in fact showing to the world, hey, I have a bread of poverty to celebrate my poverty, how can I be inviting everybody? Have you ever seen poor people say, hey, come, I have plenty of food, come? It's almost a contradiction. If you are saying this is the bread that I have, then you should be saying, don't have much room for everybody, I'm poor. But you're saying the opposite. How does it make sense? And why are we even opening the most important mitzvah of the night, of one of the most important mitzvahs of the night, with this? Yes.
Even if you have a little bit, if you're sharing, that's a mitzvah.
Okay, good. That's a mitzvah, but then don't start the night, or don't say that you're poor. Say, I have a lot to share, and therefore please come and share. Let's flip the question. Who will want to come to the house of a poor to have a meal? If you're saying this is, oh, so the people who come to you will come out of compassion because they feel for you, so for them to do a mitzvah. We don't want that. We really want to invite people. We want to give them all that we have. So then don't mention your poverty. Don't mention your bread of poverty. That's right, even more so. So why? This is something we've been saying for 2,000 years. Why? But the answer, friends, I think speaks to the very essence of freedom and to the way we should view life on Passover, but also throughout the year. What God is saying is that you may be poor with your bread, with your physical possessions, but that can never make you truly poor, as long as your mindset is not affected. If your mindset is a mindset of wealth, you'll never be poor. You might not have the bread, but you're not poor. The way to approach life, therefore, is with this mindset of wealth, that you can invite everyone that you want. In your mind, you have the greatest house that can accommodate everybody. You might have, yes, not enough possessions, but that's not the way you choose to view yourself. And that's what sets us free. And it's true conversely. Some say that some people, I don't know if you've ever heard this line, some people are so poor, all they have is money. You ever heard that before? Some people are so poor, all they have is money. So it's true conversely. Some people might have all of the possessions that they want. They might have 7 cars in the garage and the greatest mansion in the world, but they have a mindset of poverty. They store as miserable. And that's what makes them really poor. Some people are so poor, all they have money. But conversely, again, this is what we are saying. You might have nothing, but you have everything because you have the mindset of wealth. And the story begins, let me just finish this point. The story begins with this because it's important to communicate to our children what true wealth means. True wealth is a mindset, is I am a giver. That's where my wealth is. I'll invite everybody to my house. I'll figure out how to feed them afterwards. But I have the biggest heart. That's where true wealth is. I'm willing to love and to give more and to be a selfless. That's where true wealth is. I'll figure out if I have the food afterwards to feed everybody. But that's how we start the story of Passover, because that's how we become free. It's an important passage, and maybe the most important passage, and that's why we start with it. Yes?
Being invited, or whether you invite people to your house, they want them in for the stuff.
Yeah, of course. Better to have, yeah. The mitzvah of unity is a mitzvah too. That's right. Okay, so that's the point number 1. Yes. Right, that you're grateful for the matzah that you have, and that in and of itself makes you wealthy, even though it's just matzah. Right. Very well said. Good. Yes, but on Passover, we're celebrating our freedom. What makes us free is that mindset. That's right. Absolutely. Yes. Yes, please, Mindy. That's right. As he famously said, you can take away everything from a person except for his attitude. If you have an attitude of wealth, then you'll be wealthy even at Auschwitz, which is what his point was. Okay, so that, and there are many stories, we can go into it, but I do want to cover ground here. So, okay, so that's really point number 1. Then we go on with asking questions. In fact, we don't ask the questions, we encourage our children to ask the questions, which is interesting because you know what slaves can't do? Ask questions. You know what represents a free person? Asking questions. The more we ask questions, the freer we are, because it enables us also not just to understand things, but it enables us also to express ourselves in the deepest of ways. You see, when our soul is sent to this world, it has a lot of questions. The soul says, I'm used to heaven, where everything is pure. Why is there evil in the world? The soul says, I'm used to satisfying myself with doing good, with having that mindset of wealth, with giving. Why should I satisfy myself with eating and sleeping? That's a body thing. I don't understand that. And the soul has to ask those questions in order to find then explanations and meaning. So the only way we can also truly become free is not just by having this mindset of wealth, but by asking, allowing the soul to ask questions, to figure out exactly what its mission here is in this world. A slave doesn't ask questions because a slave doesn't express its inner, his or her inner desires, his inner soul thirst, so to speak, and therefore it's a slave. But the only way really to free ourselves from that is by asking questions, and therefore we encourage questions, and therefore questioning is a major theme in Judaism. They say, and we've mentioned this in the past, but they say that Eskimos apparently have 11 words for snow because that's what they live in, right? You know how many words there are for questioning in Hebrew/Aramaic? Take a wild guess. Not for question, for the word question. Hebrew, even in Hebrew, there's many more than one. What? 24. 24, because that's the world we live in. We've always understood as Jews that we may be persecuted, and we have been. We may be suffering, we may be walling in pain, but as long as we can ask the questions and challenge the status quo, we'll always be free. You know, one of the great Nobel Prize winners, Isidore Rabi, was once asked, what was your secret to becoming so great? And he said, it was really all due to my grandmother. Why? What'd she do? He said, look, my parents were very hardworking people. When I would come home from school every day, my parents weren't there. They were working. It was my grandmother who was greeting me. And she never asked me, how was school today? Did you make any new friends today? What you learn today? No, the only question she had for me was, did you have any good questions for your teachers today? And that's what made me great. That's what made me free. Through questioning, we become free. That's why we have 24 words for questioning. In other religions, by the way, questions usually are not welcome. Not all other religions, but most other religions, questions are not welcome. In some, they're even prohibited. I know that in Israel, I lived in Israel, so I know that, for example, the Druses, who are fantastic, and they're big friends of Israel. But the Jewish people have a decision to make when they turn 14. Will they accept, without asking questions, their religion or not? If yes, then they can grow and in the ranks of their religion. And if yes, then they have to shut up. Can't ask questions anymore. Sorry, if not, then they're not welcome. If yes, then they can grow in the ranks, but they can't ask questions. And yes, please, good. That's what we're encouraging. Yeah, Hebrew and Aramaic. So there's slight nuances in the differences of the meaning of the words. They all mean questioning. But let's go to the Aramaic, for example. You have a question that is meitive, which means I want to ask a question. Someone who was in the Talmudic discussions of the time, 2,000 years ago, so I have a question. Just like a student in class, I have a question. Raising hand. But then you have what's called urminehu, which is another Aramaic word for questioning. But it's not just questioning. I have a challenge to make. Not a question to ask, a challenge to make. So it's much harder. So I think the difference in the meanings is in their intensity. Yeah. Now you have many other questions. Even in Hebrew, you have the word she'elah, which would be the word for question. But then you have the word bakasha, which means request. Or you even have the word, what's the word for, no, like a machloket. want to argue, not just ask, but really argue. Yeah. It's interesting. The Talmud is really a book of questions, going back to the Talmud. It leaves no stone unturned. Every part of the Torah is questioned. And that's what makes the Torah so magical. That no matter how you flip it and how you turn it, you'll find that the message is eternal. Hafochba v'hafochba dekulaba, as the Mishnah says, turn it over and over again, you'll find that everything is in it. Shulchan Aruch, well, the Talmud also has answers. After the questions come the answers, but there are more questions, there are more answers. But Shulchan Aruch in many ways cleans the mess of the questioning of the Talmud and gives you, yes, the bullet points and the answers. Yeah. Okay, anyway, that's the theme of questioning. So number one, mindset of wealth. Number two, never stop questioning. Let's continue here. I want to turn to page 28. And there we'll find yet another theme that I think very much connects to freedom and to life altogether. And that is the theme of the four sons. So as we all know, there are four sons mentioned. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, we mentioned this last time, also said that there should be a fifth son. Why? Can only count 4 here. Look, 28. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's the fifth? It says that's the one that no one thinks of including. But there are so many of our children that are either abandoned or forgotten or rejected. And those must be included in order to make our Pesach and our lives altogether complete. So let's not forget the fifth one. But I find beauty and a deep connection to freedom, not just in the inclusion of the four different sons, which speaks to the inclusion of diversity, of accepting everyone for who they are and what background they have. But I find also a deep connection to freedom, not only in the diversity of the four sons, but in our ability to say to them, you part of the discussion. Chacham ma'u omer, Rasha ma'u omer. Let's see, what do you say? What do you have to say? Because we understand that our freedom, even though we may have the wealth, the mindset of wealth, even though we may have the ability to question, our freedom will still be limited if we can't open up our eyes and our ears to other opinions, to other people. Even to the opinion of the wicked. There's a wicked son here, Rasha. Even to the opinion of a person who doesn't know how to ask. He doesn't even know that he has an opinion. We still want to hear his opinion. But he doesn't know how to even speak. We still say, even if you don't have an opinion, say what you think. Because we understand that true understanding of life comes from me joining with the other. If it comes only from my own lenses, it's super limited, very narrow, and could be also very selfish. But when I'm able to let go of my personal thoughts and stances and include the thoughts of others and opinions of others, then my mind becomes richer and my life becomes freer. That's why we include the four sons, not just to say we welcome diversity, but we learn from them. Echoing again another teaching of the ethics of our fathers, Ezo Chacham, who is wise? Halomed mikol adam, he who learns from everybody. You can't become wise, and you can therefore become intellectually free if you don't know how to learn from others. Mikol adam, it says, from every person, not just one type of person. And I think that, by the way, is the tragedy of our day and age, that we only want to speak to and discuss things with people that are like-minded. People that are other-minded, oh, gosh, no, I don't want a discussion. That's already burdensome. My beloved rabbi would often say that that's the main difference between human beings, one of the main differences between human beings and animals. See, animals can only stick with their type. So, for example, giraffes are with giraffes, zebras are with zebras, lions are with lions, and cows are with cows. Can cows be with lions? No. Can giraffes be with monkeys? Not really. Human beings, though, can and should. And if not, maybe you're just like an animal. But this is exactly what frees us, what makes us overcome those animalistic limitations, makes us human and therefore free, to include not just others, but also their words, and truly learn from them. Yes.
By saying that, doesn't that go against the very, very religious Jews who don't? And so on?
Well, I think that you have Jews on both sides of the aisle that are very, very closed. And I think you have human beings on both sides of the aisle that are very closed. Doesn't mean that they're right. No.
But it's interesting that for it to be said here of what
That's right.
the Jews believe in.
That's right. Absolutely. In fact, if we want to go even further, Rabbi Nachman of Breslev says it's interesting to note not just the mention of those 4 types and asking for their opinions, but also the order. Who's next to who? Right? Because you have the wise son first, and then you might think, well, let's go down slowly but surely in rank. So after the wise, you might want to put the innocent, the simple. Then you might want to put the son who's an, and then you'll put the wicked last. So why is the wicked after the wise? And Rabbi Nachman Breslev says something very powerful. He says, because if you are truly wise, you can connect most to the wicked. The higher you are, the lower you can go. That's the way he puts it. But if you're not really high, that means you can't go down. So the one who can really connect to the wicked is the wise, because he's so wise that his mind is so wide that it can include as many people and as many radical differences as possible. So you have that even in a strong way in the order. Yes. Chana, I thought you had no wickedness in you whatsoever. What are you talking about? Yes, yes. Yes, I mean, certainly we could say that. We each have a abyssal of each. And then the question is, what is more dominant, the wise, the wicked, the simple, or the one that doesn't know how to ask in you, right? Anyway, so that's, okay, these are 3 themes so far. Number 1, a mindset of wealth. Number 2, the importance of questioning that makes us free. And number 3, the importance of learning from each other, uniting with each other, unlike animals, that truly makes us free. Okay, I want to go now to, I think, a passage that will resonate very profoundly in our times, because this is yet another element to, another ingredient to freedom, which is very much inserted in here. And that's at the bottom of page 30. Chana, before the class, was just asking me, what's going to be in Israel? Doesn't look good. It looks bleak. Now with Iran coming into the picture, blah, blah, blah. Let's remind ourselves of this paragraph here. In each and every generation. Look, it says so. They rise against us to eliminate us, to annihilate us. But the Holy One, blessed is He, rescues us from their hand. What's going to be in Israel? Hashem is going to rescue us. Statistics might show one picture, and then analysts might show, and I don't care. God will come and rescue us from the hand. Now, how is this connected to freedom? You can't be entirely free if the only dimension you live in is your human dimension. If you don't include the godly dimension, you can't be free, because you know what? Human beings, as wise as they are, as inclusive as they are, as much of a mindset of wealth that they have, human beings are limited. We're finite. To truly become free, we have to connect with infinity, with God, the one that's really in charge, the chief conductor of it all. And when I'm able to give over that which I cannot control to God and say, you know what? I trust you, Hashem. You've done it for me in the past. You've done it for my ancestors in the past. I know you're going to do it for me again in the future. Then I become free. Then I can sleep at night. Then I can say, you know what? I've done everything I could. Now God is in control. Good night. But that's really a key ingredient to freedom. Otherwise, we're in this finite realm. Living a 2-dimensional life makes us infinite, because we've included the infinite. And that's why it's such a crucial part of the Haggadah. I know it's hard. It's easy to say. It's hard to do. But I think it's most vital. Rabbi Yitzchak Kaduri, who was one of the great Kabbalists of Israel, passed away at the age of 106 years old. And by the way, it's interesting because he was a chain smoker and would smoke all the time. But he passed away at a lot. They say that cigarettes are dangerous for you until the age of 70. But he died at the age of 100. He said, they asked him once, what's your secret to longevity? And he responded in one word, God. Now, did he mean that God is in charge of life? Maybe. Or did he mean that I've included God in my life? I have a partner with me. It makes it easier to live, to endure suffering. But I think he meant both. God. Anyway, that's the other ingredient. I want to jump now. Then we tell the actual story, go over the history, as you can see on page 33, 34, 35, 36. I want to go to the very, very last part of this Haggadah, and that's page 40. It's your favorite song, or maybe one of your favorite, or maybe it's not your favorite song, I don't know. But it's certainly a song that everyone sings, which is a song of Dayenu. Does anyone want to sing it for us? No, thank you. But Dayenu, as we all know, means it's enough, right? Now, there are some passages, read them, that don't really make sense. We say, for example, that if God had slain the firstborn, okay, that maybe makes sense. If he had drowned our oppressors in the sea, but not provided for our needs in the desert for 40 years, it would have been enough. You would have died. We would have had manna from the heavens and water from the well of Miriam. We would have died. What does that mean? And there's many others that, again, don't make sense. If he had brought us close to Mount Sinai, but not given us the Torah, we wouldn't have had a compass for life. Really? That would have been enough. So what does this mean? I want to connect this. Let's turn back here to another passage, which really relates to the beginning of the story about the chronological order of things. But if you go back to page 30, you'll see in the second paragraph here that it says, originally our ancestors were idol worshippers, but now the omnipresent has brought us near to his service. Why are we even mentioning that our ancestors were idol worshippers? Why are you bashing them? Just say, now we're close to God. But there's a very deep commentary that's very much connected to Dayenu. It's enough. And that says, mitchila doesn't just mean originally, in the past, really, that's what it means. Our ancestors were idol worshippers, but now God has brought us near to his service. And what this really means is that in the past, if I live in the past, I'm like an idol worshiper. But now, if I live in the now and not appreciate the blessings of the now, then I'm near to God's service. And this is exactly what every passage of the Dayenu is. What does it mean it's enough? I don't think it's ever enough. If you're a growing person, you always want more, at least spiritually, not physically. It's a difference there. You should want more spiritually. You shouldn't want more physically. That you can say, I'm happy with my lot. But you're still growing. You still want more and more spiritually. So what does it mean it's enough? What it means is that I've developed an outlook on life in which I can appreciate the now. Now, I haven't received the Torah yet, but God has brought me to Mount Sinai. I should cherish this moment. Right now, there's a blessing. And that's what makes us free. A person who lives in the past or he lives in the future, conversely, some people live in the future, our whole society in many ways is constructed in a way that we are constantly living in the future. Think about this. When you go to school, they tell you better get good grades so you can be accepted to a good college. When you go to college, you better get good grades so you can have a good first job. When you go to, you better do well so that you can get a promotion. Oh, you better do well so that you can become CEO. Oh, you better do well so that you can have a good retirement. When are you living in the present? But that's the way society is constructed. So some people not only live in the past, but also live in, what about the now? And that's what Dayenu really means. Dayenu means, right now, for this moment, I have enough. Next moment, I might not. But right now, I have enough. And if I can live in such a way, then I'm free. Then I'm not shackled by the past or by the future. Then I'm enjoying the blessings and I'm setting myself free with those blessings. That's what the Yenu means. That's what that passage means. And really, that's what the entire Haggadah means. And that's why some people sit for hours and hours, because they're enjoying the moment. Why not? That's why people lean, because they're kings. They're not, tomorrow they won't be kings, and they know that your spouse will never treat you like a king or queen. It's fine. Right now, let me enjoy it. It's enough. I've blocked everything else. And that, I think, is the most important ingredient of being free. So let's repeat all of those ingredients that, again, are really inserted here in the Haggadah of Passover and the actual story. One is the mindset of wealth. That's where it begins. Two is this quality of unstoppable questioning. Three, we said, is this ability to include not just others, but their opinions and learn from them, not be like animals, but truly connect mind to mind, heart to heart with people. Four is letting go by saying God is part of this picture, Vehi Shamda. He was there for us then, he will be there for us today, and knowing that he's our partner. And five, again, is to focus on the now, embrace the blessing of the now. If we can do that, then I think we have a good chance at becoming free. That's regarding the story of Passover, but there's so much more, of course. You can explore more and more. We also, throughout COVID, we made many YouTubes, like how to run a Seder and everything. Maybe I'll send them to you so that we can share those ideas with people. But for now, let's open this up to any questions, as I promised. Yes, please.
Can you get us, if possible, a prayer or something in reference to maybe someone of the hostages that are still there to have them join us
Yes,
spiritually at the Seder?
absolutely. That's a great idea. I want to touch upon this idea because I'm seeing people are emailing me all sorts of things. I saw this idea, which is at heart a very good idea, but I would tweak it a little bit, of having an empty chair at every Seder. I'm sure you've seen it. People are encouraging you to have an empty chair for the hostages. I would say the best way to honor the hostages is to fill that chair. Fill that chair with someone you wouldn't have invited. Because Judaism is not about focusing on the emptiness, but it's about focusing on filling that emptiness. So yes, that hostage is not here, and therefore the chair is empty. But the hostage will want us to include someone else in his honor or her honor. So that's one idea. And then as far as the prayers go, there are prayers. I'll share a prayer with you. In fact, we have a prayer right here in these cards. Yeah. Right here.
I'll copy and send it.
Yes. That's the classic. That's the traditional prayer that's been said all over the world. But if you want, I can find it online. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll send you the YouTube links and this prayer. Anything else?
Well, would this be a prayer to stay at Pesach?
Sure. Sure. I would begin the Seder even before Kadesh. Begin the Seder by including this prayer and a prayer for the IDF also. I'll send you. Ready?
You say the prayer, I will also be the staff, and which I just sent out to the lone soldier in memory of Michael Levain.
Kol HaKavod.
And also, the Pharaoh's name, the grandson.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
They're going to be in Israel with the family.
Right. Yeah.
So, anyway,
Beautiful.
So we say that every week.
Right. Fantastic. Yes, Haley. Yeah.
What Rabbi Steinsaltz said about fifth son, I missed that.
Oh, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. That we should know that there's also a fifth son, the one that doesn't even show up.
Oh.
No, I mean it's a commentary again. There's no fifth son in here, but that's the point. That's the first son that's not included. Everyone forgets about. Yes. Could be because he was rejected. I don't know why he's not here. Right. Not here. Could be because he was rejected. It could be just because we forgot about him. He's abandoned. Yes.
Well, I was listening to that spread this
Mhm.
morning. He was talking about Passover. It was excellent.
Mhm.
And he said that a lot of Christians started celebrating Passover
Mm.
because of what's going on, and they really sympathize with Israel.
Mm.
So I was like in tears because it made me, of course, it was a lot of supper, but a lot of Christians are celebrating Passover.
Mm.
And, you know, and, what's the word?
Solidarity.
Yeah, thank you.
Solidarity. Very nice. Very nice. Yes.
We have class on the 24th of this case.
Okay, yes. So it is Pesach, so we'll resume after Pesach, which is the 1st, right? May 1st. Yeah. Yes, Kathleen. Mm-hmm.
Holiness in our own lives, so that we get closer to God, are closer to God, and we are living the kinds of principles that God's holiness would have us do to be closer to Him.
Right. That's a great question. Right. How do we make ourselves or our homes holy? So the question is, how do you find holiness? So there are many definitions of holiness, but we can only know what is truly holy from the source of holiness, God Himself. God says this is holy, then it's holy. God didn't say that this is holy, then I guess it's not holy. However holy we may feel about it. For example, Mount Sinai was never a holy site. Or you could say it feels holy. We received the Torah on Mount Sinai. But it's not a holy site. You know why? We don't even know where it is, actually. You know why? Because God didn't make it holy. Jerusalem, on the other hand, Temple Mount is holy. Why? Because God made it holy. So it's holy. The other thing that God made holy is every mitzvah. Asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav, we say. Every time we do a mitzvah, we say that God made us holy with His mitzvahs. So every time we do a mitzvah, that's how we draw down that holiness. So the best way to become holy and draw down this holiness is by doing a mitzvah.